Hello, fellow Bowen Islanders. It's April 17th, and it's your Mayor Gary Ander again with another weekly update. You may have already heard that we have reduced our 2020 budget in light of the pandemic. Council felt that at this time of economic uncertainty, it's one thing we can do to help reduce the financial impact on our taxpayers. And yesterday, the provincial government announced some new measures to provide financial support for both local governments and businesses. They include, for local government, allowing local government to borrow interest-free from existing capital reserves to help pay for operating expenses. Also, they're delaying the provincial school tax remittance to the end of the year. These are both big measures for the municipality. It's great. Other measures introduced to help benefit businesses included reduction in school property tax for businesses. That's the second one, and that's quite considerable also. Postponing the date that late penalties apply for businesses till October 1st. This will give those businesses facing financial hardship more time to pay their property tax without penalty. There was no relief announced for residential property tax payments. There are some deferral programs through the BC government that you should probably look into at this time. And I think they might be working on some kind of a rural property tax thing, but that'll have to be announced, and that will be announced in the future. And we will continue to work hard with the province to find ways to ease the financial burden for our taxpayers. We know it's tough out there. Last weekend, our COVID Rangers were down in the Cove every day. I was down there for a few days too. They're doing a great job down there. Very high profile. They're just it's some of our staff that we've repurposed for that occasion because we feared there was going to be there could have been a big flow of tourists coming off, as would normally happen, especially on a beautiful Easter long weekend as that was. And so we had the COVID Rangers down there, very high profile, and they were just letting people know, making sure that they knew that we weren't really welcoming tourists at this point in time, and we would love them to come back in the future. And if they were going to be walking through the trails and that sort of thing, that they would use the social distancing. Having said that, when I was down there and I met about 6 ferries, I don't think there was a total of 18 people walked off those ferries. And of those 18, probably I would say 10 to 12 were residents of Bowen Island. So the message is definitely getting out there. They're also, the COVID Rangers are also looking after the government dock because the government dock is closed to any new entries. It's just, there's some winter moorage there that's existing, but otherwise nobody is allowed to come into the government dock. So there was very few passengers coming off that ferry. And they were also looking after the general store just in case things got a little crazy up there. And as it turned out, they did not need their help for crowd control. The long weekend seemed to pass without the influx of visitors we were concerned about. This makes me cautiously optimistic that our message is getting out, and now is not the time to visit Bowen Island. We'll keep repeating this message as long as necessary. At the same time, I encourage all Bowen Islanders to stay home and avoid all non-essential travel until we can get this curve flattened out. And on that note, just a couple of things came out of the province. Has extended the provincial state of emergency for about another 2 weeks, just until the beginning of early May, and at which time they will review it again. And the message from Dr. Bonnie Henry, the provincial health officer this morning, was quite clear. We are doing, it is working. The operations that we're maintaining to not interact with people, the social distancing, the staying at home, not going out unless you really have to, being very careful about staying away from other people besides family that you're probably living with. All these measures are working in BC, and she's very optimistic that if we keep this up, we could really be doing a good job with this. I don't want to say that we're out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. If anything else, I think this is certainly the time that we really have to be careful about our social distancing and interacting with people, as hard as it is, and that sort of thing. But it is working. We're winning right now, and if we continue to obey the rules from the health authorities, we will get through this sooner than later. On that note, I want to talk about using our parks, trails, and beaches. We Bowen Islanders cherish the recreation opportunities on our island, and many of us are drawn to live here because of these natural amenities. Of course, Dr. Bonnie Henry has said that we can leave the house to exercise outdoor, and this is good for our mental health. Everybody wants to get outside, especially in this beautiful weather. I want to make sure when you're using your trails, you're practicing physical distancing. Feel free to go for a walk with members of your household, but don't come within 2 meters of anybody else. The other thing about if you happen, I saw some other measurements, and if you happen to be jogging on a trail, go for a jog, and you're jogging behind somebody, these physical distancing measurements change a bit, and that becomes 5 meters because you're moving along at higher speed. And of course, if you're riding a bike, that distance becomes even further apart because you're going even faster than that. So that's another thing that people are becoming quite aware of. Try to keep close to home, and maybe use a popular trail if you can with the beautiful weather as we've been having. Keeping active outdoors is one way we can feel less cooped up. We have to make sure it is only for exercise. It's not a social exercise, unfortunately. And please don't try to find loopholes by gathering outdoors with people from outside your household. Loopholes are where the COVID-19 virus will sneak in. Thank you, Bowen Island. Again, I'm so proud of what we're doing. We are a model for other communities here. And we're sticking together during these difficult times and looking after one another. Everything seems to be at a very nice level of a new normal on Bowen Island as I drive around and into the Cove. We're all in this together, but safely apart. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you very much. We'll talk next week.